I was wearing blue that day. Cheap blue. The kind that wrinkles wrong and never really fits. I kept tugging at the sleeve, annoyed it slid down my arm. A small laugh escaped me, like it was a dumb thing to care about. That morning felt normal. The house was quiet in that careful way, not asleep, just waiting. I stepped into the hallway and the floor creaked once. I froze, counting in my head. 1, 2, 3, nothing. I moved again. Sunlight cut through the window and hit my face, warm and soft, like it didn't know where it had landed. I rolled my eyes, grabbed my bag, still half in a dream that felt lighter than it should have. In the mirror, I made a stupid face. "You're fine," I whispered. The words didn't stick. My hair refused to behave. In the kitchen, I reached for water. My hand slipped. Half of it spilled across the counter. The sound snapped through the room. I wiped it fast, heart racing, eyes locked on the doorway. My father hated messes. When he was home, messes weren't just scolded. He wasn't there. My mother passed behind me, close enough that I felt the air shift. I turned, already smiling. "Morning." She slowed, just a little. Her eyes flicked to the clock on the wall, then to the front door, not to me. "You need to be back before dark," she said. Outside, the cold hit hard. I hugged myself and laughed once, hopping on my toes like it was nothing. Walking alone made me feel taller, safer, like the world belonged to me for a few blocks. I kicked a rock down the road. It bounced wrong, like everything I touched today. I had plans that day, small ones. Finish homework early, borrow lip gloss from a friend, ask my teacher about the school play. I practiced smiling in my head, felt brave just thinking about it. Normal kid stuff. When I came back home later, the sun was still up. The door was already unlocked. That's when I knew I was late. The front door creaked under my hand. Not loud, but wrong. Too slow. Too deliberate. The hallway stretched before me, darker than it should have been, though sunlight still fell across the floor. I stepped in, careful, a shuffle forward, like a mouse in someone else's house. There was a smell, not the usual mix of old tea and dust. Something heavier, something tight. My stomach twisted. My bag slipped from my shoulder, thumping against the floor. I didn't pick it up. Not yet. A soft sound came from upstairs. Just one note at first. A dragging of something across the floor. I froze, counted in my head. 1, 2. Then it shifted, like it had weight now. Heavier, closer. I stepped back, knocking a chair against the wall. The scrape echoed, sharp, unnatural. I swallowed. Mother appeared at the end of the hall. She didn't look at me. She raised her hand slightly, a small motion, almost like a warning. I didn't ask. My voice wouldn't work. The front door shifted, just a fraction, a slow click, almost like it settled into place. A shadow passed behind the stair railing. Not him yet. Not fully. Just enough to make me step sideways, almost trip, my breath caught in my chest. The house wasn't quiet anymore. And when the door clicked fully behind me, locking quietly, I knew there was no going back. My mother didn't move. She stood there at the end of the hall, hands folded tight in front of her like she was praying or hiding something. I couldn't tell which. Her eyes stayed on the floor, not the stairs, not me. The dragging sound stopped. That was worse. A footstep landed on the first stair. Slow, heavy. The wood complained under it. Then another. I turned toward my mother. My mouth opened before my brain caught up. Mom. She shook her head. Fast, sharp. No sound, just no. Another step. Closer now. I took one step toward her. Just one. Small, like a question. She stepped back. That was it. He reached the bottom of the stairs. I didn't look at his face. I didn't have to. His presence filled the hallway, pushed the air out of my lungs. I stared at his shoes instead. Dirty, familiar, too close. He said my name. Not loud, not angry, like it was already decided. Come here. 2 words. Calm, final. I waited for my mother to say something. Anything. To cough. To interrupt. To suddenly remember she was my mother. She didn't. Her fingers tightened together. Her shoulders curled in and cheating her head away. I walked, each step wrong, like my legs belonged to someone else. Like I was watching myself from the ceiling, thinking, why is she doing that? Why doesn't she run? But I didn't run. When I passed my mother, I smelled her perfume. The same one she wore when things were supposed to be normal. I looked at her face one last time. She wouldn't look back. He took my arm, not rough, just firm enough that I knew it wasn't mine anymore. Don't make this hard, he said. I nodded. Don't remember doing it, but my neck moved anyway. The hallway disappeared behind me as he pulled me forward. The house swallowed us both. And somewhere in that silence, a part of me went quiet. Gone. The hallway felt too long when I came back to it in my head. Not real, not solid, just echoes of steps that weren't mine. I sat on the edge of my bed, bag still on the floor. The straps dug into the carpet like they remembered every small weight I carried. I didn't unpack. I didn't move until I knew staying still would make it worse. The silence in the house had changed. Not quiet, not calm, not safe. It waited, watching, breathing. I felt it press into my ears, my chest, my skin. I thought about speaking, about calling for my mother, but her face turned away, burned into my mind. She had watched, and she had done nothing. I hugged my knees, trying to fold myself into something smaller, easier to ignore. My stomach ached, and my hands shook just slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me to feel like I didn't own them anymore. The clock ticked too loud. 1, 2, 3. I didn't want to measure it. I didn't want to know how long it would last. The room smelled like everything I hadn't touched that day. Old paper, stale air, and the faint trace of perfume. I buried my face into my knees and tried to remember the light. The sunlight this morning, warm on my skin. A small laugh escaped me. Weak, broken. And then it hit me. I had to keep moving. Something worse would come if I didn't. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself upright. I stared at the door, the hallway, the ceiling. Every surface felt wrong, smaller, darker, accusing. My mother's whisper stayed in my chest. Not sound, not voice, just the weight of what she did and didn't do. I thought about my plans, my little victories for the day, my homework, my friends, my lip gloss. Gone. Not destroyed, just unreachable. I closed my eyes, trying to find the part of me that could still pretend. It wasn't there. The quiet stayed, waiting, like it knew I couldn't ignore it. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every step I took, every shadow that moved in the corner of my eye reminded me of what had changed. I didn't go straight to my room this time. Instead, I stayed low, hands brushing walls, trying to feel what the house would allow me. The floorboards creaked differently under pressure. I stopped, waited. Nothing moved, but my heart slammed anyway. I peeked around the hallway corner. The living room looked empty, too empty. I moved forward, small, careful. The bag was still on the floor, straps tangled. I grabbed it, hugged it like armor, not because it would protect me, but because it made me feel slightly taller, slightly braver. The air smelled faintly of perfume again, my mother's. I froze just for a second and remembered her face, the way she had turned away. My chest tightened, a reminder nothing would protect me here. I made it to the kitchen. Light through the window made lines on the floor, long and thin. I traced them with my eyes, imagining escape routes, hiding spots. My mind worked faster than my body. I imagined moving, slipping out, hiding, pretending I wasn't there. A small sound made me jump. A cupboard door shifting, maybe from the wind, maybe from the house settling. My hand went to the handle of a spoon drawer. I gripped it, not to hit, not to fight, just something to hold, something to remind myself I was still me. I realized something then. I could make small choices, tiny ones, decisions that no one could take from me. Which hall to take, which floorboards to step on, when to breathe. Survival wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, invisible, necessary. The hallway stretched ahead. Shadows looked different now. Longer, thinner, like they were reaching. I swallowed, stepped forward. A faint noise upstairs made my stomach tighten. I wasn't alone. I knew it. Every corner I passed, every sound I heard made me sharper, faster, smarter. And somewhere deep inside, I felt the first spark. Not courage, not hope, not joy, just awareness. I froze mid-step. A floorboard groaned somewhere behind me, sharp and sudden. Not the house settling, not the wind. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering. My bag dug into my side, a reminder that I was still holding on to something, even if it wasn't enough. The faint light from the window didn't reach the far corner of the hallway. Shadows pooled there, thick and waiting. I peeked. Nothing, but my gut told me otherwise. A soft creak came from the stairs. My stomach turned. I imagined someone or something waiting at the top, waiting for me. I forced myself to take a step, then another, every motion deliberate, every breath measured. The kitchen clock ticked. 1, 2, 3. I stopped counting after that. Counting didn't help anymore. Then a sound I didn't expect. A low shuffle from somewhere in the living room. Closer than I thought anyone could be without me hearing first. My first instinct was to hide, But hiding wouldn't help. Not this time. I had to know, had to see. I peeked around the corner. Nothing. But the air was heavier here, tighter. Shadows had shifted slightly, just enough to make me think someone had moved them. I realized I was holding my breath again, fist clenched, body tense. This time, though, I didn't let it freeze me. I moved, small steps, careful, testing the floor, testing the space. Something in me had changed. The fear was still there, yes, but it wasn't paralyzing. It was fuel. Every sound, every shadow, every shift in light made me sharper, made me think faster, made me anticipate. A floorboard creaked again behind me. I spun. Nothing. I exhaled slowly, a small laugh slipping out of me. Short, bitter, alive. I moved forward. I wasn't safe. I wasn't anywhere close, but I was moving, and that mattered. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered. Shadows shifted with every small movement, almost alive, crawling along walls and floors. A noise, a soft, deliberate footstep, echoed from upstairs. Not hurried, not loud, just deliberate. My stomach dropped. I knew I wasn't alone. I never was. I hugged my bag tighter, not because it would stop anything, but because it reminded me I was still here. I was still myself. Barely I moved toward the stairs, every step measured. My legs felt like stone, but my mind was racing. Each shadow, each creak, each whisper of air made me sharper, faster, aware. I paused at the bottom. The air felt heavy. I could hear my own heartbeat thumping in rhythm with the house, with whatever else was up there. A floorboard creaked again, different this time. Closer. Behind me? No, somewhere else. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Not yet. I realized then I had a choice. Small, invisible, but it mattered. Go forward, hide, wait. Each decision carried weight. I stepped onto the first stair. The wood groaned under my weight. Upstairs, a door shifted, just a fraction. Not open, not closed, but wrong. My breath caught, and I waited. The world held its breath with me. I imagined what could happen if I made a wrong move. Not explicit, just possibilities. Enough to make my skin tingle, my nerves spike. I forced myself up one more step. The house seemed to shrink around me, shadows crowding, waiting. Something in me had changed. The fear was still there, but it was no longer paralyzing. Each shift, each sound, each movement, fuel for focus, anticipation, survival. A whisper brushed past me. Breeze or voice, I couldn't tell. I froze, then moved. Carefully, calculated. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I had to keep going. The staircase ended. Shadows pooled at the top. And somewhere in that silence, the first real test of what I could endure had begun. I reached the top of the stairs. Shadows pooled, thick and uncertain, stretching across the hallway like waiting hands. A sudden noise, a soft thump, almost behind me, made my stomach flip. My hand tightened on the bag strap, fingers white. Not a scream, not a shout, just wrong. I froze, one step backward. Another creak answered me. Someone or something was moving, or the house was. I couldn't tell, but I remembered this morning, the sunlight on the floor, the warmth on my skin. That part of me wanted it back. That part trembled. Hiding wouldn't help. Not this time. Not with the hallway too long, too exposed. So I moved. Small steps. Careful, deliberate. Eyes darting. Every corner, every shadow, every sound calculated. The faint scent of perfume drifted from the living room. My chest tightened, a reminder I wasn't safe. A floorboard groaned behind me, slow, deliberate. My pulse jumped. I spun. Nothing. Just the shadows. Just the quiet that didn't belong. I forced myself forward again. My legs felt heavy, but my mind raced faster. Every sense screamed, notice, anticipate, survive. A draft brushed my cheek, cold and fleeting, like a warning I couldn't name. At the end of the hall, a door stood slightly ajar. Not fully, but wrong. I paused, hand trembling. If I pushed it open too quickly, if I waited too long, I slid the door open just a crack. The room inside looked empty, almost safe, almost. A whisper of movement, a brush against fabric, a shifting shadow. I didn't wait to know. I ducked, low, careful, and pressed past the doorway. I exhaled slowly. Relief, tension, defiance, all tangled inside me. A laugh slipped out. Short, sharp, bitter. Alive. Somehow still alive. I had made it through the first test, but I knew it wouldn't be the last. I leaned against the wall, chest heaving, trying to slow my heartbeat. The hallway seemed longer now. I realized something. Fear wasn't my enemy. Hesitation wasn't my enemy. What could kill me, or at least take away what little control I had, was inaction. I started moving again, slow, deliberate steps, measuring every floorboard, listening to the faint hum of the house. The smell of old paper and perfume mixed, tangling in my nose, reminding me this was my home, or what was left of it. I tested each door as I passed. Some closed tight, some slightly ajar, some resisting like they had secrets. I noted them all, every shift, every resistance, every shadow that lingered a second too long. A window rattled with a gust of wind. My stomach clenched. A memory flashed. My father yelling, slapping hands. My mother just watching. That old fear surged, sharp and bitter. But I didn't freeze. I moved faster, smaller, quieter. I realized patterns. The floorboard in the hall groaned if I stepped on the wrong side. The staircase gave a warning before it shifted under weight. The faint sound of the wind upstairs masked almost everything, but not entirely. My ears had learned. My eyes had learned. I paused in the kitchen. Light hit the tiles at just the wrong angle, blinding, stretching shadows into monsters that weren't real. My hand gripped the strap of my bag tighter, not to fight, not to defend, to remind myself I was still here, still breathing, still thinking. A faint click made me jump. A cupboard door or something else. I didn't wait to find out. I pressed onward. I had started learning the rules, silent rules, invisible, dangerous. And the more I learned, the sharper I became. But with every step, every shadow, every noise, I knew the house, the presence in it, the danger. It wasn't finished testing me. I edged down the hallway, careful, every sense alert. Shadows shifted with every flicker of light. My legs were heavy, but my mind raced faster than ever. A soft creak echoed from the stairs behind me. I froze, heart hammering. Not the house, not the wind. Something or someone was moving. I took a cautious step forward, misjudged the floorboard, and it groaned sharply under my weight. My stomach flipped. I spun, eyes darting. Nothing. Only shadows, stretching like they were laughing at me. My chest heaved. I hugged the bag closer, almost too tightly, and whispered under my breath, "Stay calm. Just Stay calm. A draft brushed my face, cold and sharp. I remembered the morning, the sunlight, the warmth, the brief smile I had forced on myself. That part of me clenched, terrified, refusing to let go. I moved again, slower this time, measuring each step. The hallway felt narrower, the shadows denser. Each creak a heartbeat I couldn't control. At the end, a door stood slightly ajar. I thought I had learned the rules, but my hands trembled as I reached for it. One wrong push, one too hasty movement, and I didn't want to imagine what could happen. I slid it open just enough to peek inside. The room appeared empty. Safe? Almost. A fleeting shadow moved across the floor. I yelped softly, catching myself immediately, and pressed against the wall, eyes wide. My bag dug into my side, grounding me. I exhaled slowly. Relief, fear, defiance, all tangled into one tight knot in my chest. A short laugh escaped me, bitter and sharp. Alive. Somehow still alive. I had survived the first near mistake, but I knew the house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they would test me again. I pressed myself against the wall, breathing slowly, letting my mind replay every sound, every shift, every hint the house had given me. Patterns, they existed. I had started to notice them. Floorboards groaned under predictable pressure. Shadows stretched and recoiled in familiar ways. The faint whisper of wind always came before a small noise upstairs. Every corner had a rhythm, every door a warning. I started moving with purpose now, not blindly, not frozen. Step by step, I tested the floor, felt the vibrations, listened for subtle echoes. Every movement calculated. A window rattled. A draft brushed my cheek. I flinched, then forced myself forward. The hall felt alive, breathing, waiting, but I was learning its pulse. I paused at a junction, weighing my choices, left or right. The left hall had the quieter floorboards, but longer exposure. The right was shorter, but the shadows clung tighter. I chose the left, carefully, slowly. A cupboard door shifted behind me. My stomach clenched, muscles tightening. I didn't freeze. I calculated. Step to the side. Stay low. Keep the bag in front. Everything I had learned came together in one small act of survival. I exhaled, feeling the first taste of control. Not safety, not victory, control. The house could still punish me. The shadows could still trick me. But I had rules now, rules I could follow. A faint whisper, breeze or voice I didn't know, brushed past me. I didn't hesitate. I pressed on, ducking, gliding past the doorway like a shadow myself. Ducking, gliding past the doorway like a shadow myself. For the first time, I felt like I was not just surviving, I was participating, learning, testing limits. But I knew the house would change. The rules weren't static. I had to stay alert, always alert. I was moving down the left hallway, floorboards memorized, shadows mapped in my mind. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. Then a sudden sharp sound from the right. Not a creak, not wind, something different. A small thump, like a weight landing softly on the floor. I froze, heart hammering, my bag dug into my side, my stomach tightened. I hadn't expected that. Not here, not now. I pressed myself against the wall, eyes darting. The shadows seemed to flicker faster, like they were reacting to the sound. My first instinct, hide. My second, move. Not blindly, but calculated. I inched forward, slow, testing the floor, listening for the faintest echo. The hallway seemed longer, stretching into something unfamiliar. A cupboard door shifted to my left. I flinched, almost too quickly, then remembered. Patterns, rules. I stayed low, glided past, timing my steps with the creaks. The thump came again, this time closer. Behind me, ahead, I couldn't tell. The unknown pressed in like cold air on my skin. I realized I had a choice. Hesitate and risk discovery, or act and risk a mistake. I chose action. Carefully, deliberately. I pressed against the far wall, moving like a shadow myself, and reached a corner. Peeking around it, I saw nothing. Just shadows. Just the faint light of the window. But my stomach churned. I knew the next challenge was coming, and I had to be ready. A short laugh escaped me, trembling but defiant. Alive. Somehow, still alive. I had survived the unexpected, but I knew this house, these shadows, this presence. It wasn't done with me. I moved through the hallway, every sense on high alert. Floorboards, shadows, drafts. I knew their rhythm now, but that knowledge didn't make the tension any lighter. Then, a sudden, heavier noise. Not a thump, not a creak. Something dragged across the floor upstairs. My stomach dropped. My hands clenched the bag strap until my knuckles hurt. I froze. Breath caught. The house felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were pressing in. Every instinct screamed, this isn't just a test. Something's wrong. I forced myself forward, slow, calculated. My legs felt like stone, but my mind moved faster than ever. Each shadow I passed, each corner I navigated, each subtle sound I anticipated, it all mattered. A cupboard door shifted violently. My stomach lurched. I ducked instinctively, pressing against the wall, bag in front of me. The air felt thick, almost tangible, like it was holding me down. Then I remembered the rules I had learned, the patterns, the warnings, the rhythms of the house. My pulse was rapid, but I moved with purpose, step by step, breath by breath. At the end of the hall, a door blocked my path, not fully closed, not fully open. Wrong. I paused. A decision had to be made. Hesitate, and I risked discovery. Move too quickly, and I risked a misstep. I chose to act carefully, sliding the door open just a crack, peeking inside. Empty? Maybe. Safe? Not even close. A shadow flickered across the far wall. A faint sound, dragging again. Closer this time. Behind me? Ahead? I didn't wait to find out. I pressed past the doorway, gliding low, timing every step. My bag dug into my side. My breath caught. Every nerve screamed. A laugh slipped out. Short, sharp, defiant. Alive. Somehow, still alive. I had survived the high-pressure moment, but I knew the house, the shadows, and whatever waited in the corners, they weren't done with me. I edged forward, every muscle coiled tight. The hallway seemed longer, narrower, shadows deeper than before. My breaths came fast, shallow, each one echoing off the walls like a warning. Then a sudden sharp noise. Not a creak, not a thump. Something heavier, deliberate, behind me or ahead. I couldn't tell. My stomach flipped. Every instinct screamed, move, not freeze, not think too long, move. I took a step, another. A floorboard groaned under my weight, louder this time, sharper. My heart jumped. I knew I'd been heard. I pressed against the wall, bag clutched to my chest. My legs trembled, but my mind was razor sharp. One wrong move now, and I couldn't risk thinking about the consequences. A door at the end of the hall shifted violently. My breath caught. The shadows around it seemed to pulse, alive, waiting. I forced myself forward, sliding the door open just enough to peek inside. The room appeared empty, almost safe. Almost. A brush of air, or maybe a whisper, brushed past me. Cold, sharp, certain. I ducked instinctively, pressing low, moving past it like a ghost. I exhaled slowly. Relief, fear, defiance, all tangled into one tight knot in my chest. A short laugh escaped me. Alive, somehow still alive. But I knew I had crossed a line. There was no turning back. The house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they had tested me, and now I was part of the test. Every decision I made from here on out carried weight. Every sound, every shadow, every breath was critical. I had survived this moment, but survival was only the beginning. I moved cautiously through the hallway, shadows stretching like hands, stretching longer with every step. My senses were taut. Floorboards, creaks, drafts, even the faintest whisper of air felt alive. Then, a sudden movement in the corner of my eye. Not a shadow this time, something solid, close, too close. My stomach dropped, heart hammering, bag clutched tight against my chest. I had no time to think. I froze. Every instinct screamed, act, not freeze, not hesitate, act. I slid along the wall, low, careful. The thing, presence, shadow, whatever it was, shifted. Closer, waiting, testing me. I ducked into a doorway, holding my breath, letting the shadows pass. My body felt stiff, heavy, but my mind was sharp. Step by step, I memorized every detail. The floorboard creak, the faint scent of perfume, the cold draft that, warnings. It shifted again, closer. My stomach twisted, a movement, deliberate, patient. I had learned the rules, patterns, rhythm, timing. I had to use every bit of knowledge I'd gained. I pressed forward, slow, measured, low, calculated. Every step, every motion, every breath mattered. At the end of the hall, a door blocked me, slightly ajar. Wrong. I paused, heart in my throat. Hesitate, and it could catch me. Move too fast, and I might make noise. I acted, sliding it open a fraction, peeking inside. Empty? Maybe. Safe? Not even close. A faint movement, brush against fabric, shadow shifting, made my stomach flip. I pressed myself low, gliding past, bag pressed to my side, breath shallow, every nerve screaming. A short, sharp laugh escaped me. Alive, somehow, still alive. I had survived the first high stakes confrontation, but I knew this house, these shadows, this waiting presence, it wouldn't let me rest. It would test me again and again. I crept forward, every nerve screaming. Shadows twisted around me like they were alive, stretching across the walls and floors. waiting for the slightest misstep. Then a sudden noise, sharp and unfamiliar. Not a creak, not a thump. Something else, something deliberate. My stomach clenched, heart hammering, bag pressed tight to my side. I froze, barely breathing. It came again, a soft scrape, almost whispering across the floor. Close, too close. Behind me? Ahead? I didn't dare look. I pressed myself against the wall, sliding low, every muscle tense. My mind raced through patterns, through everything I had learned. Floorboards, shadows, drafts, all of it mattered. A cold draft swept past my cheek. I shivered, stomach twisting with fear. A memory flashed, my father yelling, my mother's eyes averted. That fear surged, sharp and bitter, but I didn't let it paralyze me. I moved again, carefully, step by step, measuring weight, timing movement, predicting the rhythm of the house. The sound shifted, closer, then farther. I realized it was testing me, seeing if I could adapt. I ducked into a doorway, pressing myself low, gliding past the edge of shadow. Every breath a calculated effort, every heartbeat a drum of survival. A faint movement behind me made my stomach lurch. I exhaled slowly, forcing my limbs to obey my mind. Alive. Somehow, still alive. I had survived the unpredictable challenge, but I knew the house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they would not stop. Every step forward would demand more. Every choice carried weight. Every breath was a test. I was moving down the hallway, shadows stretching long, the floorboards familiar under my careful steps. My breath was shallow, measured, every sense alert. Then a noise, a heavy, deliberate step, closer, behind me, ahead. I didn't wait to find out. I froze, stomach twisting, heart hammering in my chest, bag pressed tight, knuckles white. My mind raced, patterns, rules, rhythm, all of it screaming, move, now. I ducked low, pressing against the wall. The shadow shifted, heavier this time, deliberate. My pulse thundered in my ears. I pressed forward, slow, deliberate, each floorboard a challenge, each creak a warning, every shadow a question I had to answer instantly. Then an edge of cloth brushed my shoulder. My stomach dropped. My breath caught. Not a hand, not yet, but close. Too close. I twisted, gliding past, bag digging into my side, every muscle tensed, every nerve screaming. Alive. Somehow, still alive. I had escaped the first near capture, but I knew the next time hesitation might not save me. The house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they were learning too. Every choice, every step, every breath mattered now. Survival wasn't just instinct, it was strategy. I moved through the hallway, shadows wrapping around me like living things. Floorboards groaned under invisible weight. Every step was deliberate, calculated, precise. Then it came. Not one sound, but several. A soft drag from upstairs, a shuffle from the far corner, and a whisper of movement close behind. My stomach twisted, heart hammering, my bag pressed into my side, grounding me, but barely. I froze for a split second, then realized there was no freezing this time. I had to act fast. Every sense screaming, every muscle coiled. I slid low along the wall, moving like a shadow myself, each step timed with care. The drag upstairs, the shuffle in the corner, the whisper behind. They weren't random. They had rhythm, patterns I had to anticipate. A door shifted violently in the far hall. My chest tightened. I ducked instinctively, pressing against the wall, gliding past the shadowed edge. Another sound, closer now. Behind me, ahead. I didn't wait. I pressed forward, step by step, breath by breath, calculated, controlled. A fleeting movement brushed past my shoulder. I flinched, stomach lurching, but forced myself forward. Alive, somehow, still alive. I had survived the simultaneous threats, but I knew they were testing me, seeing if I could handle chaos, adapt, endure. Every corner, every sound, every shadow. The house demanded perfection now. Survival was no longer instinct, it was mastery under pressure. I slipped into a quiet corner, chest heaving, legs trembling, but for a moment it was silent. The shadows hung still, the floorboards gave no warning, the house seemed paused. I sank against the wall, bag pressed to my chest, and let out a shaky laugh. Alive, somehow, still alive. For a heartbeat, I almost believed it, almost believed the danger had paused, the presence vanished, the nightmare softened. But my instinct screamed, don't trust it, never trust it. A faint sound, a whisper of movement, too precise to be wind, cut through the silence. My stomach clenched, my heart stuttered. That false relief was gone. I pressed myself back to my feet, eyes scanning, muscles coiled. Every floorboard, every shadow, every corner could betray me now. I realized this wasn't a pause. It was a trap, a test of my vigilance, a moment to let my guard down so the house could see how I reacted. I moved again, calculated, deliberate, each step a silent promise to survive. Alive, somehow, still alive. I had survived the brief illusion, but the next challenge would come faster, sharper, closer, and I had to be ready. I moved through the hallway, shadows crawling across the walls like living things. Every creak, every draft, every subtle shift in air made my heart slam against my ribs. Then it happened. Not one threat, not two, but the full weight of the house itself seemed alive, testing me. A drag upstairs, a whisper close behind, a shadow crossing the far hall, simultaneously. I froze, stomach dropping, mind racing, bag clutched tight, breath shallow. My instinct screamed, act, now. I slid low, pressed against the wall, timing every step with care. The drag upstairs was predictable, the shadow in the hall, less so. The whisper behind, a warning. A door shifted violently in front of me. I paused, too late to hesitate. Step, duck, glide. Every muscle tensed, every nerve firing. A fleeting brush against my shoulder made my stomach twist. I barely flinched, forcing myself to move forward. Alive. Somehow, still alive. Every sense screamed danger, threat, urgency. But I had learned the rules, patterns, timing, rhythm. My mind and body worked as one, every step deliberate, every breath calculated. I had survived. But the house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they weren't finished. They would test me again, harder, faster, closer. For the first time, I realized survival wasn't just instinct, it was mastery under pressure, and I would need every ounce of it to make it through. I paused in the hallway, chest heaving, every muscle tense. Shadows stretched across the walls, flickering with every faint light. My mind was sharp, senses screaming, but suddenly I wasn't sure what was real. A whisper floated past me, not wind, not floorboards. A voice? My imagination? I didn't know. I blinked, trying to focus. The hallway seemed to shift, corners bending slightly, shadows stretching in impossible ways. My stomach twisted. I pressed myself against the wall, bag tight, eyes darting. I thought I saw a figure at the end of the hall, a fleeting shadow, almost human. I held my breath, stepped forward, freeze. I moved slowly, testing every floorboard, measuring every shadow. The figure disappeared. My heart thudded. Was it real, or had my mind tricked me? I shook my head, trying to steady myself. Alive, somehow, still alive. But the moment left me shaken. I realized the house didn't just test my body, it tested my mind, my perception, my trust in my own instincts. Every corner, every sound, every shadow now carried double weight. I had survived, but I had to be sharper than ever. The house was teaching me that survival wasn't just movement, it was awareness, anticipation, and the ability to see through deception. And I had no choice but to learn fast. I paused in the hallway, chest heaving, every muscle tense. Shadows stretched across the walls, flickering with every faint light. My mind was sharp, senses screaming, but suddenly I wasn't sure what was real. A whisper floated past me. Not wind, not floorboards. A voice? My imagination? I didn't know. I blinked, trying to focus. The hallway seemed to shift, corners bending slightly, shadows stretching in impossible ways. My stomach twisted. I pressed myself against the wall, bag tight, eyes darting. I thought I saw a figure at the end of the hall, a fleeting shadow, almost human. I held my breath, stepped forward, freeze. I moved slowly, testing every floorboard, measuring every shadow. The figure disappeared. My heart thudded. Was it real, or had my mind tricked me? I shook my head trying to steady myself. Alive, somehow, still alive. But the moment left me shaken. I realized the house didn't just test my body, it tested my mind, my perception, my trust in my own instincts. Every corner, every sound, every shadow now carried double weight. I had survived, but I had to be sharper than ever. The house was teaching me that survival wasn't just movement, it was awareness, anticipation, and the ability to see through deception. And I had no choice but to learn fast. I stumbled into a wider hall, shadows twisting in ways I couldn't predict. My legs ached, chest tight, mind screaming for clarity. Every sound, floorboards, whispers, drafts, pushed me closer to panic. A sudden movement in the far corner made my stomach flip. I froze, breath caught, my body trembled. Every instinct screamed, run, hide, survive. But my mind felt brittle, fraying. I pressed against the wall, bag clutched tight, trying to steady trembling hands. Alive, somehow, still alive. But the laugh felt hollow, weak, a flicker of defiance barely holding back fear. The shadows seemed to shift faster now, merging, stretching, like the house itself was alive, testing every nerve, every thought, every decision. A whisper of movement behind me. My pulse thundered. My head spun. I almost faltered, lost. I had survived so much already, but now the weight pressed on me harder than ever. Then I remembered the rules, the patterns, the instincts that had kept me alive so far. Step by step, breath by breath, I regained focus. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't broken. I pressed forward, low and deliberate. Every corner, every shadow, every sound became something I could anticipate, navigate, control. Alive, somehow, still alive, stronger, sharper, ready. I had survived the turning point, and I knew whatever came next, I would be ready to face it. I pressed forward, every muscle coiled, every sense razor sharp. Shadows loomed, twisting, reaching, testing every nerve. Floorboards groaned under my careful steps, each sound a warning. Then, a sudden deliberate movement, closer than before. Behind me, ahead, I didn't wait to find out. Step, duck, glide. Every motion precise, every breath calculated. The hall stretched endlessly, corners bending in impossible ways. Shadows flickered, merged, separated. My stomach flipped, heart pounding. This was the ultimate test. I remembered every lesson, patterns, timing, rhythm, floorboards, drafts, whispers, shadows. I could anticipate, I could adapt, I could survive. A fleeting figure brushed past my shoulder. I pressed low, sliding past, bag tight against my side. Alive. Somehow, still alive. I moved faster, sharper, but every step was deliberate, every breath controlled. The house, the shadows, the waiting presence, they pressed, they tested, but I had become more than their prey. At the end of the hall, a doorway, I paused. Every instinct screamed, one final test. Step forward, and I either survive or falter. I took the step. Low, controlled, deliberate. Shadows shifted, floorboards groaned, but I moved through. Alive, truly alive this time. Not just surviving, not just enduring, but mastering the house, mastering fear, mastering myself. I had reached the survival breakthrough. The ultimate test had been met, and I had prevailed. I sank against the wall, bag loose at my side, legs trembling, but finally still. The shadows no longer pressed. The floorboards were silent. For the first time, the house felt empty. I let out a long, shaky breath. Alive, truly alive. Somehow, still alive. Memories of what had happened swirled. Fear, pain, uncertainty, every heartbeat pounding through nights I couldn't forget. My childhood, stolen piece by piece, whispered in my mind. But I was here. I had endured. The house had tested me, shaped me, broken me, and somehow made me stronger. Every shadow, every sound, every narrow escape had taught me one thing. Survival wasn't luck. It was instinct, courage, and the will to keep moving, even when nothing made sense. I touched my face, felt the lines of my worry, the weight of everything I had carried. I was different now. Hardened, yes, but also sharper, aware, alive in a way I hadn't been before. I rose slowly, taking measured steps. Each one felt deliberate, controlled, a promise to myself to never let fear own me again, to remember everything I had endured, and to survive beyond it. Alive, somehow, still alive. And finally, a small flicker of hope sparked in my chest. I had survived. I had endured. And though the scars remained, I had reclaimed a piece of myself that had been lost for too long.